let's continue investigating appropriate design, an article, journal article by Graham Lowe, and we'll discuss some feeding and bleeding aspect of this article. Before we discuss the content of this module, I would just like you to think about the questions listed here. What you can do, you could pause the video for a while and think about the questions here. What you understand by the term a course unit? Very important question. And what's the difference between a course unit and a lesson? Right. Before I tell, I would just like you to think about what you understand. Right. Thirdly, what approaches would you like to employ to structure a course unit? Right. There are various types of course units, and the traditional one, which I would just like to discuss here. And before I discuss the types, the feeding and bleeding of course units, I would just like to explain the term unit being used in this discussion, in this module. The course unit is actually, it denotes to the learning tasks included in a particular language syllabus, right? So traditional unit structure implies a quite orthodox, approach towards the structure of course unit, which is presentation, production, practice, and production. And Graham Lowe puts it in a different way and got three various factors. The first one is the presentation, and the second one is the controlled exploitation. For example, if you want to teach first conditional to your students, what you could do, you could present it and ask them afterwards to make a rehearsal of what they have learned, and this is how it's kind of carried out in a controlled way. And thirdly, free exploitation, which is some of the items which are learned by students could be generalized to other items presented in a particular syllabus. And fourthly, synthesis, putting together various strands of a course together, right? There is a sort of very important dimension or a relationship between presenting materials and designing exercises for the materials. This is important because the exercises actually helps feed and bleed the various parts or various units of the course. I mean, exercises should be, in other words, if you want to, for example, bring in an appropriate design in a language curriculum, in a language course, so we need to ensure, we don't need what we can do, we need to ensure that the exercises are presented in such a way which actually create a coherent connection between various lessons. Lessons here means to say is what's actually done in the classroom at the level of technique, at the level of method, at the level of presentation, right? So the exercises actually play a pivotal role in terms of bringing in a harmony between various units of a course, right? So how actually exercises help feed and bleed. For example, I've got example here. For example, if you want to teach students how to write a letter to different people, so what you could do, you could bring in an exercise and containing this exercise, yours faithfully, and the next exercises could be containing another element, yours sincerely. So this is how the example here makes us become aware of how the connection could be feeded and bleeded into various course units, right? Another example which is of task-based language learning unit, which is, this task-based language learning unit could be, for example, if we've got a book and this book employs task-based learning approach towards language teaching, so what we could do, we could bring in some teaching approaches which are task-based and exercises which are also task-based, which sort of give tasks to the learners to do the exercises themselves, and this is how make their own personal opinion about different exercises.